Welcome back, guys, to another episode of The Trick Way, the only way. It took me this long to actually say that. That was a good opening line, Gray. I liked that.
That's
The
right.
Trick Way, the only way, my way. Yeah, we're back for another review episode in the typical Gray and Trev style, where we absolutely analyse the arse out of it and just go in multiple different angles because that's how we roll. Today it's Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 4, Room for Growth. Gray, what was your kind of brief opinion on this episode? Kind of rating, that kind of thing? Did you enjoy it?
Um, yeah. I mean, I still kind of stick with what I more or less do sometimes. I kind of float around a 7.
Yeah, same.
It depends. Some of the real funnier ones, like last time, I might go up higher than 7 or whatever. But again, I still stick with what I say before about this show. It's the moments. So there's certain moments that are just
That's what makes it.
flat out funny, and then the rest of it is kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's decent enough. We know what Lower Decks
Yeah.
is. It's. I
Right.
don't think it tries to be something that it's not. It's just something for us to have a chuckle at and a laugh at. We will talk about some funny points at the end of this and throughout the episode. But we'll kick off. Gray. This episode starts off in the Cerritos in a very crowded lower deck. There's people going left, right, and centre. It's a lot more crowded than it usually is. And it turns out that our engineering crew, I mean, I don't know if it's just engineering, let's just say our ensigns, our faithful usual ensigns, are playing silly little games in their bunk beds and whatnot. But they all have to, by order of the captain, go on some shore leave. And what was it you said, Gray? You've mentioned here. One of your favourite characters, Tiana, has a nice little kind of one-liner.
Yes, my favorite, the cat doctor, of course, Dr. Tiana. The captain was reading from what Tiana wrote about the engineering crew and how overworked they are. Because the
Yeah,
captain came in saying, "Wow, you guys are like really overworked." And one of the guys, I always forget his name, but one of the engineers was saying or Shax was saying to him that you guys have been working for a week straight, and he's like going, "Huh? A week? What?" Like this. So
Billups.
anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, and then the captain looks at the sheet that Dr. Tiana wrote up about their condition, and he says, "Well, Dr. Tiana says that you guys are an effing pile of stress." She pulls no min she minces no words, Dr. Tiana. She just lays it right out there.
and that's why we
So it's
love her. That's why we love her, Gray.
exactly.
This episode will have not a hell of a lot of the Doctor in it, but one or two funny moments that we will touch on shortly, which gave us both a
Oh
good
yeah, we
chuckle.
definitely are going to.
And there was a lot of touching, pun intended.
Mm,
So it turns out while the captain's arranging this shore leave for her crew, there is a room lottery coming out, Gray. Now, what I mean by that is they're all in the lower decks. A lot of these ensigns, and while they like it, they want to get to the first deck, the top deck, because it's like the penthouse suite, if you like, the penthouse suites of their starship, and they're wanting the best possible room that they possibly can get. They have to try and fight this out with the Delta crew, which we'll talk about later on in the episode. And what you mentioned here, Tandy finds out, and Beckett says Delta crew should join the Maquis because apparently, Gray, they
yeah.
are in an act as well, aren't they?
I guess apparently the two crews, one in the day and one at night, aren't really fond of each other. So when Tandy finds out that apparently the Delta crew is trying to rig this lottery, she goes back to tell Beckett, and Beckett goes, "Oh, the Delta crew, they should just join the Maquis already." And I keep on hearing these little lines and they drop it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, and
So,
it's those lines that it's why I love Lord X in that respect.
mhm.
You mentioned something after here, Gray, in our notes that it is. I actually think it's a relevant point. Do you want to tell us about the swearing and expletives, etc.,
Yeah,
that pisses you off?
I mean the expletives and which we call swear words, right? It gets to me because so many episodes, and I don't have a problem them using them whatsoever. It's actually the other way around. I don't understand why they keep bleeping them out all the time. So every time they go to say F this or shit that or whatever, it's just beep, 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 beep,
Beep.
beep, beep.
Sorry.
And okay, at first I thought like, all right, well, okay, so I guess they're doing that because, if it goes on network TV or not streaming, you would have to do that. Then I started thinking about this for a minute, and I'm going like, wait a minute, this is on a streaming service. This is not on normal, what they used to call commercial television. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
this is network. So if you're paying for this, okay, then everything goes. And so imagine if they didn't bleep out the explicatives, yeah, I get it, the swear words, how much better it would be. I would love to hear Dr. Tiana, especially, just let it go, just let it go. And even when Beckett starts using more language than she's ever used, because in the first 2 seasons she didn't use a lot of swear words. Now all of a sudden they're popping up now left and right. Okay, not overused, but they're there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm like, enough already. I'm paying for this. So if you were concerned about those words going into, let's say, if they ever were to release it on, again, so-called commercial TV,
Yeah.
well, then you bleep them out. Why are you bleeping them out now for the streaming service? Let it go, and then if it goes to commercial, then bleep them out.
That's 3
You know,
times, and you've said let it go in the last 2 minutes. I really seriously concerned you're going to start breaking out and start singing Disney's Frozen.
let it go.
No.
Well, there's another version of that that's really great.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know the version.
If you
Yes.
see, look up what is it, the F it all, and
Yes.
Disney, and that's a great parody. It's really funny. But
You're
anyway, we digress.
yes. Oh, that's what we do. Great. That's what it's all about.
Well, the reason why I wanted to the reason I wanted to
Mhm.
bring this up now is because as we go into this review, you're
There's more of
gonna
it.
see more behind my reasoning. But
Yeah.
but we'll see. We'll go.
Your point is valid, and my opinion on it is I think they do it like that because now I've heard the odd swear word on Discovery, and when I
Mm,
heard it, I was a bit shocked. Not because I was offended, but because I'm not used to that in main Star Trek. Now,
right.
while it's animated, I mean, animated or not animated, it doesn't make any difference to me. I think I would have at least initially still been shocked because it's not Star Trek and to do that. However,
Yeah.
because it's comedy, it's an adult comedy Star Trek type show. Um, I wouldn't be as surprised. So if they just literally
Right.
cursed beep without the beep machine, I would be like, whoa, okay. But I think it's a bit tongue in cheek that they just swear, beep it right out immediately, but you still get a very clear indication of what they're trying to say. It adds to the character, I think, and the humour of
Hmm.
the show, rather than just F that straight out, put the beep in, you know what they said. And I think it works. But it is a good point, mate. It is a good point. I don't think they do it for that reason, because Discovery has had a couple of swear words on it, and it's on a streaming service, so they could do that. That isn't a problem, but they don't.
Well,
So
I think like in the live action shows or whatever, I believe that you obviously don't want to be swearing left and right, but if it calls for it, yeah, so what if you let one or two go through? You
eh,
remember in I forget what movie it was, but Data turned and when I forgot what was
shit. It
happening,
was start. It
and he just
was.
goes, "Oh shit."
It was Star Trek Seven Generations when Deanna Troi was crashing Enterprise D, and
Okay,
he had the chip. Remember, he had the emotion
yeah,
chip.
the emotion chip, yeah,
He was funny
and
in
he
that
lets go with
episode.
that,
He was genius. That was hilarious. That really was. That cracked me up.
yeah.
Rest in peace, Mr. Data. Yeah, so that is a good point because there is a lot of swearing in this episode, and there's more swearing come up in this particular episode as well. So,
Hmm.
right, we've got room lottery kicking off with the ensigns, but the rest of the crew, certainly a lot of the senior crew, are going on shore leave, but they're going on shore leave to another ship, and it's called the Dove, which I found excellent. That's a brilliant name for a ship. Just,
Yeah.
I don't know what species it is. It's not Starfleet or anything. It's just another ship, chill out kind of ship, shore leave type ship called the Dove. And Gray's noted here that we do see a few things, right, that we're going to point out. Well, they're going
Yeah,
on
the
to the
one.
yeah,
Go ahead, sir. Well, I would say the one thing that I noticed right away
yeah,
was that the alien that is running the doves, it's like a R&R spa,
yeah, kind of.
is the same, or not the. and she's the same alien or species of an alien that was in Star Trek, the original series animated.
With like the
And
3 arms,
that
4 arms.
alien, yep, and that alien in the Star Trek TOS animated was a helmsman. And I always remember that the look of the character and stuff, and then he had 3 arms. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about that.
Is it not
So you're
4?
seeing no, only 3.
Okay,
They
because I
wanted
was
to be
I was
different,
going to
trying to
say
tell
then
you.
it's like it's Gore from Mortal Kombat. Then no one rips that idea
Yeah,
off.
no, no. But
Yeah.
one of the things that they did enjoy way back in the Star Trek uh, TOS animated stuff was the fact that they couldn't, because it would cost too much money, they couldn't sit there and show the really wild alien species because but in the animated they could. And I
Mm.
think they kind of carry that forward in sort of in Lower Decks by the fact that they bring back a character or two from way back.
Why couldn't they do that, Gray?
Um,
Do you think it would be too much CGI or too much
in the
makeup or
original,
something?
oh god, yeah, it
Yeah.
would it would have ended. Well, I'll give you one perfect
Well, not
example. You
CGI,
remember
but
the original? No, you remember the original Gorn in TOS,
oh, that was so
right?
awful. That was so
It was awful. I
bad.
mean, even though I enjoyed the episode for what it was, okay, back then, even back then, it was kind of corny. Now it's way corny. So
Oh yeah.
basically, that's all they could afford. They couldn't show
Yeah.
you know, the proper alien like they could today, maybe. So I
Yeah.
think the Lower Decks kind of plays into that and just says, okay, we're going to bring back a couple of those characters, and that it does allow them to bring back or to utilize some very strange looking things that are supposedly characters in Lower Decks because hey,
Yeah.
man, budget allows it.
The
So,
beauty
but I thought that
of
was kind of neat.
animation. Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, it's just true. And you've got a point there. You do see more of the mad aliens. It seems to be, if it's not a 3, I think it's not a cat type creature, but it's definitely an alien with 3 arms. Then you've got a bird. Then you've got a doctor cat, as you like to call her. So yeah, all the funky stuff on Lower Decks. That's why we love it as well.
Well, what about we know we're both skipping over because I didn't think it was a big deal, but Tendi had some kind of gelatinous pet in a beaker.
No, we're not skipping over
I
it.
don't,
You didn't mention it,
oh,
but
okay, okay.
I do remember that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A little pet Jello thing. I think of the thing off of the
Yeah.
Orville. If anyone's seen that, can't remember what the character's name is, but the one that's like literally the blob character.
Oh,
It's like a
right, right, right.
tiny
Yeah.
version of that, isn't it? It keeps escaping, which I found adorable and cute.
Yeah.
That's a very good
So
point.
that's your
Yeah,
pet.
a little
Super
pet because
cute.
Tenny's a bit strange like that, but she's also very sweet. So
Yeah.
we're on the Dove, and the doctor, the shrink, whatever you want to call her, she is basically giving them a tour of the facilities. And some noticeable things we saw: there was a puppy room, there was a kitten
Yep.
room. And then I quote, the doctor's words were, "There's a kitten room for those that don't want the puppy room, but we won't judge you," something along those lines, which I found hilarious, because I
Yeah.
am a cat person over a dog person. Doesn't mean I'm not a dog person. I'm neutral. I'm neutral in dogs. They're lovely. I just don't want to pick up anyone's shit. So I'm more of a kitten person, and that's fine. So I was a little dig there. I took that slightly personally from the doctor. So screw you, doctor.
I know they're gonna hear from people that love cats, but I thought it was funny when they do the puppy room. But what she did is she turned to them and says, "Well, we can replace the puppy with kittens for you deviants."
Yeah, yeah.
like,
Yeah, we're called
like, oops.
deviants. Harsh,
I
man.
was like, "Oh man," I was like,
And you see, I think I almost forgot this, Gray, but I saw it at the corner of my eye, and then when I read your comment, it kind of jogged my memory. We do see Klingons battling away, or a Klingon battling away in the room, which,
Yeah.
of course, they do because they Klingons, and that's how they relax. Everyone's different. And we also see, Gray, I mentioned below as well, we see a Benzite. Now, I just remember that from the Next Generation, that episode, I think it was episode or 2, where the Benzite was on the ship with Wesley Crusher. I saw him and I thought that was cool. I like that alien species, so we
Yeah, I
like
think I
little
missed that one.
cameos.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the teamwork makes the dream work, Gray. You note things down that I
There's
miss and
a
vice versa.
I'll mention something else probably nobody noticed, but when they did the puppy room, the species of alien that was inside the puppy room was an Andorian, right? But
Mm.
if you watched her closely when the puppies were jumping all over, she wasn't having a good time. She was freaking scared of these puppies. And like who's scared of puppies? And she's like, "Ugh," like making all these faces and everything, like she's going nuts.
No one's
I'm
scared
going,
of puppies, Gray. Everyone loves puppies. They love
that's right.
puppies.
But you know, a horror movie will just take that and twist it right around.
Make it up, you will. So back on the Cerritos. Beckett and the gang, I like that. We could say Boyle and the gang. Beckett and the gang, what have you put here? They cut through a holodeck on the way to the terminal to stop Delta crew. They're trying to basically... It's like a shortcut to try and beat Delta crew, because what they're going to do is they're going to rig the machine, the computer that actually... It's like a lottery. And they want to rig this machine so they can get ahead of it, because they don't think it's a very fair system. So it's literally a race to where this system is located to actually hack it and defeat the system. And that's where they're literally cutting their way through a holodeck. Now, Gray, you mentioned here, how did it easily enter? Now, that is a good point, because 1 minute you just see them outside, and the next they're like almost appeared in the room, and you're thinking if it's someone's program, you can't just enter. Is that where you're coming from?
Yeah, because all they did is they go, oh, I think it was Tendy or something said, oh, Dr. Tiana is running a program. I guess we'll have to wait. And then Beckett's going like, no, we don't have to wait. And then she just walks in, and I'm like, hello. I mean, there would be some kind of protocol to keep you from just walking in.
Starfleet HR, Starfleet HR.
Exactly. So they just kind of like ignore that, and I'm like, okay, whatever. It's a cartoon, right? That's what I keep telling myself when this stuff happens. All right, it's a cartoon. I get it. So they just walk right in, but that's cool.
And this program is, now this is probably easily Gray and I's favourite part of the whole episode. I was cringing, I was laughing, I was everything above. It was Tiana and Shax were both running this program, and it was like a kind of 20s, 30s, 40s era gangster heist type thing, where they're literally these two are fighting off the feds or whoever they think it is,
which is really appropriate for the Federation, right?
Well, that's a nice little nod.
Play on words.
They're both hilarious, but Tiana is literally cursing their way through it, effing this and effing that. And again, that's our previous point we mentioned, Gray, about the swearing, and it would have been hilarious maybe if they hadn't beeped it. But I found it amusing all the same. Tiana says, I didn't plan on blowing anyone's brains out, but here we are, as she cocks a shotgun. And then, Gray, you could carry on this point here about Shax and
Sure.
Dr. Cat.
First of all, everybody that's listens to our thing knows that Tiana and Shax are my two favorite characters. So when I saw this open up with them and they're two together, I'm going like, oh my God, this is great. My two characters together in a holodeck thing. I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting there going like, this is a 10. This scene's a 10 in my book, no matter what. So I see two of them and I'm all excited. And so they do this whole thing and she's cursing her way through it. This is where I thought they should have lifted that stupid bleep stuff. Because if the curses had gone through, it would have made it even funnier, because it was already funny as hell. So they're just doing the whole bank heist and shoot machine guns and everything. And meanwhile, the characters, our Beckett and crew, are in there like trying to dodge bullets, because, of course, Tiana's going to shut off the safety protocols. I should turn off the safety protocols. And the way she does it, it's great. Just like, turn them off. We don't need them. And all of a sudden, they're going like, whoa. And then Shax is like getting into it too. So they're both just really like having a ball with this whole thing. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, wait a minute. We're sitting there talking about how they won't let the explicatives go through, but then they get into heavy duty innuendo sexual talk. And I'm going like,
what they're saying, Gray, we want to hear it. We want to hear it.
And so now all of a sudden we find out that Shax and Dr. Tiana are intimate. I mean, intimate. Very intimate. They go through this whole thing where they're talking about like how sometimes they don't communicate with each other. So it gets into like an intimate semi-argument discussion or whatever between the two. And they start getting down and dirty with the discussion. And she's talking about how like, oh, well, let's do like we always do. We get really excited about this, and then we start doing the nasty on the table and let everybody else watch. And I'm going like, whoa. And I'm being a little bit kind in how I'm describing this.
Yes, he is.
they were saying it a little more descriptive than I'm doing it. And I'm going like, oh man, and my jaw's like dropping. I'm laughing and I'm going like, whoa, they're letting this stuff through, and stuff like that. And then she starts talking about,
I want the
Shaq
line.
saying something. What Shaq starts saying, well, you don't listen to me sometimes when I just died, and when we never really talked about it because it was an episode where he died and came back. We had talked about that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Tiana, sensing that, I guess that Shax is being a big baby, says, "Oh, big baby," says here, and he says, "You want to suck on these?" And you see her pull her blouse partway down. And I'm like, oh man, I'm sitting there going like, this is really getting raw into it.
I burst out laughing at work with that, Gray. I was watching it at work. Sorry.
Oh my god, I was sitting there on the floor. I'm sitting there going like, oh, this isn't really happening. And am I really seeing this? And of course you're having visions, right? So you see Dr. Tiana, who's a cat creature, whatever, and she's only like what, 4'5", and then you're looking at Shax, who's about 7 foot tall, and he's like super broad, and you're going like, these two are just intimate and doing nasty on tables.
They're not compatible. It's like a little baby Chihuahua or a big Rottweiler or something. It's
right, which makes it even funnier. And then after I heard all this, right? I'm sitting there going like, man, how can they top that? And she goes like, says, listen, I'm gonna tell you something I haven't never told anybody. I'm gonna tell you the whole story about how I lost my tail or whatever. And he's going, oh, I want to hear that one.
And it's the facial expressions on both their faces.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course the crew is hearing this, and all of a sudden Boimler was great. He goes, oh no, we gotta go, and he's trying to jump down the tube so they can get out of the room. And he's like, no, we can't hear this. Beckett's already in. Boimler's going, no. And he's going in. And then all of a sudden, Tendi, who's the one that's like the most innocent of the whole crew, right? She's going like, I always wanted to hear this story. And she's sitting there going like, hanging on.
Fascinated.
And all of a sudden, Dr. Tiana starts to go into it, and we don't hear it. And Tendi goes down the tube.
Yeah.
And that was it. So it was just like, man, it was so good. I mean, that whole sequence was just completely outstanding.
That was so good. That was easily the best part of the whole episode. And I would give that just a 10 out of 10 alone. That section of the episode, it was that good. We then move on to Beckett and Boimler. They seem to start encountering a bit of an acid trip. Now, to give you some context, right, they're in a room that's got some funky weeds and kind of shrubs and stuff. And it doesn't seem to have any effect on Tendi. She notices, there's something wrong with the atmosphere. That these plants, they don't need water, but they use nitrous oxide or something like that to breathe.
Yeah. From what I'm gathering, I guess the plants emit nitrous oxide, so there's so much of it.
Barely
any oxygen in the room, so they're getting kooky on nitrous oxide and lack of oxygen. So they're like,
a little acid trip like with big arms and stuff. And Boimler's got a fish head kind of thing, or it was a starfish type thing. It was kind of bonker. Now, to give you some context, the reason they have this in the room, this is my theory, Gray. This is something that we missed from the very start of the episode. The very start of the episode, one thing we missed out, apologies, was just after they're all being crowded by everyone in lower decks, the ensigns, the captain goes levitating and floating through the corridors with a mask on her face. And they make the whole joke of, not another mass situation, someone's been taken over, that kind of thing.
Really
the captain's going about trying to turn the ship into her own personal temple. So this is where it comes from. If you imagine Indiana Jones or something where, they're trying to climb up vines and stuff, then that's exactly the room that the guys are in at the moment, that they're giving off the fumes that are making them a little bit high, and they're running out of oxygen. Tendi has to actually save them quickly because they are almost running out of oxygen, to the point where she actually starts slapping sense into them and hitting them and kicking them and stuff, and then throwing them into the Jeffries tube so they can actually save the day. I found that amusing as well because I just
she really first we find out that she's not so innocent from before, and now she's like slapping them around, and she took a stick and starts beating Beckett with a stick.
Anything to wake them up, man. It was
Exactly.
it was amusing. We go back to the Dove because I don't know, like both. You've always got the B plot to the A plot, don't you, Gray? Sometimes even the C plot. Now, the A plot and B plot were both hilarious. They were both on point this time around. So we'll go back to the Dove, and so they've got these. All the crew have got these wristbands on now. They have to get them down to a nice healthy green, and most of them are on like yellow or something, or a light version of yellow, and they need to de-stress. Now the problem is the engineers, especially Phillips and Rutherford, they can't relax. They don't know how to relax. They're literally whatever they do to relax is involving some form of engineering. On the sand that they're relaxing on, they literally start making equations and schematics and stuff in the sand. And the captain notices this, Freeman notices this and goes, "Oh, come on, guys, that's not what I was talking about, trying to wipe out the mess and stuff." And the thing is, what's backfiring is the captain's getting increasingly stressed because her crew are not relaxing themselves. So it's actually going in two different directions here. We because we're hopping between the two. We go back to the Cerritos. Now, Greg, do you want to tell us about this, because we've got the whole Bold Boimler thing, right? What is Bold Boimler up to this time around?
Yeah, I mean, carrying on from like the episode before or whatever, Boimler's getting much more
confident.
Confident in himself and likes to do daring things or whatever. And so all of a sudden, they were in their trip to get to this area where they got to hack the computer.
Yeah.
They end up going into a room that's low gravity, but little do they know that outside there's a bunch of asteroids. And so Ransom says, "Oh, just turn on the deflector dish. That's what it's for." Well, they're caught in the room when the deflector dish is powering. And so the room is like spinning because that's what's supposed to happen, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah.
Before that though, when they had the low gravity, Boimler starts having lots of fun and calling himself Anti-Grav Boy, and he's sitting there just zooming around because
like
the
confident
gravity's
like
really
this.
low.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, and he's flying around until this happens, and the shit hits the fan, so to speak. See, we didn't bleep that out, by the way.
No, we didn't.
And
no.
no, and so all of a sudden he gets caught in this whirling room or whatever. The girls, meanwhile, kind of knew what was going on a little sooner than he did, and so they were in a little less trouble. So they also jump back into the Jeffries tube. Isn't it funny how the Jeffries tube is always around to bail you out?
Oh, you gotta love
it. Yeah. So anyway, they jump in there, but they go like, "Oh man, Boimler's like stuck out there spinning around, and stuff." And so they decide how are they going to handle this? Now, before this even happened, with him being so bold or whatever,
Bold boys.
What I really thought was funny was that Beckett dropped a line at one point and says that Bold Boimler is not sustainable. We can't handle Bold Boimler because he's not sustainable. I thought that was pretty funny. It was a good one-liner.
Well. Yeah.
Because it might have slipped some people because it doesn't sound funny, but when you think about it, it is funny because they're both going like, we can't deal with this. I mean, how are we supposed to deal with this? This isn't working.
How did they save Boiler? What did he do?
Yeah, we're gonna tell you how they saved him and what little beef I have about it, if you want to call it that. So they're trying to figure out, well, how are we gonna get to them? They go like, well, we gotta come up with a lifeline or a rope or something, but of course they don't have anything. So what do? They strip to practically naked. They're only wearing their ladies' underwear or whatever, and they're tying all their pants and their shirts together so that they can throw a line per se to Boimler. So they go ahead and they do that, and they were able to grab him, and then they were able to pull him back in using their clothes as a rope.
Yeah, as you do.
They were able to pull him back into the Jeffries tube. So now they're all like safe and everything, and Boimler's like, "Oh, thanks for saving me." Now here comes my thing again, which is what happened in another show. He doesn't notice any of this. The girls are both practically naked, right, in there, and he's just like, "Man, it's another day on the Cerritos," and I'm like,
yeah,
"Really?"
We've seen that before, Gray.
And they did it before when Tendi was in the towel, right? In the episode before, she was wrapped in the towel.
Or the first episode at the start with the grapes.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Now I understand that. Okay, I guess maybe this is a theme where Boimler is not noticing this, but I mean, come on now. You've been playing this thing for 3 episodes. You need to say something, or there has to be a comedic moment that you can just drop right there. So I was waiting for a good one-liner to happen,
Didn't
right when he
happen.
went in there, and never happened. And I'm going like, man, missed opportunity as far as I'm concerned. Definitely a missed opportunity.
It keeps happening to bold Boymes. He's not so bold, maybe gullible, maybe blind. The amount of times women are throwing themselves at Boimler and he's not paying attention. I mean, it's obvious the guy's a catch. He just needs to actually figure it out quickly. Or maybe not, because then he won't be so innocent then. But we'll see what happens. There should be some more love triangles in that episode, or that series in general, actually. Maybe that's something that will come of it, you know. So again, we're switching back and forth between the two ships. We go back to the Dove, and this is hilarious as well. The captain is getting more and more stressed out because her engineers keep doing the most elaborate things to either de-stress themselves by doing more work, or at one point, actually, what they do is they look very chilled out. All of them sitting with green on there. It turns out they used a piece of cucumber to actually block the sensors, which I found hilarious. Every single one of them. Or they're getting massages and, oh yeah, just working out the kinks, you know, as Captain asks how they're doing. Just working out the kinks. Yeah, she's lying down with a engineering contraption underneath her, literally working out the kinks. So, you know, they're constantly working.
Massage.
Well, she's getting a massage, genius. So all this is pissing the captain off, where she slowly but surely keeps getting more and more mad, to the point where she flips. It's too much. She has her band goes black, and it's almost like, I was going to say black alert, but that's something else, isn't it? But the equivalent of black alert, and the doctor with 3 arms calls it. He's like, right, yeah. We have to get the big guns out. We have to sort this immediately. Take her away, but she's getting taken away. She's still ranting and raving. The line that I loved and Gray loved was, "All engineers are goddamn Jordan LaForges." So a little nod to Levar, because we love Levar, and I'm looking forward to actually seeing him coming back in season 3 of Picard. But yeah, so Captain's getting carted away, maybe to the loony bin. We don't actually know. The Dove Commander, because we don't remember her name. I don't remember her name.
Yeah,
we just call her the 3-arm commander. The 3-arm commander, yeah, that could work. Says she's shipping the captain off to Earth, and the engineers actually have to think very fast here on the spot, because they don't want to lose their captain, despite everything that's happened here. But they just don't know how to relax.
Right.
But
and they also feel that it's pretty much their fault, so they're getting guilty. You know,
the guilt trip,
over
massively guilt tripped, I think, in this one, to be fair, Gray. But again, jumping back again, we are going back to the Cerritos. Now, I had a little chuckle at this as well. Beckett, Boimler, and Tendi are talking about if they get the penthouse suite, you know, how would they act? How would they react? How work on your entrance or your command to tell people to come into the room, if I remember rightly, Gray, and how Riker seems to be the best one. Was it Boimler that wants to focus?
Yeah, Boimler brought it up first. Yeah, he's sitting there going like, "Well, Riker goes like this." Enter?
Yeah. And it's like, no, maybe it's come or enter, you know. And well, it's just a good point, actually. Hey, if you have a really good room, you have to work on how to let guests in. You've got to have your one-liner, your one word that lets people come in.
Sure.
It's a very good point. The Delta crew, as they're talking and chewing the fat, literally drop in on them. I don't know what happened there. They seem to get... Now, at this point, Gray, are they stuck in the room, or are they literally... I think, because they're all talking. You've got Delta crew and their ensigns all talking.
Yeah, first you had our gang, and then Delta crew literally falls in the same room on them, because they're on the way to the same terminal to hack the computer. But the room that they're in earlier, I don't know if it was Tendi or I think it was Tendi, and she was saying that the door that they needed to go through
Mm.
only opens up for 10 seconds every
That's
hour or
yeah,
something. And so they're all talking and they're bonding, and the two crews are having chummy talks and blah 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 and fine.
chummy
And then
talks.
finally what happens is the door opens and then Delta crew races through it and just goes, suckers, and they just race through and the door closes, and
Yeah.
unfortunately our little gang couldn't get through. So in actuality, even though they looked like they were all bonding, yeah, they were, but not quite.
Yeah, I found that a bit cheeky and a bit rude. It looked like
Yeah.
it was kind of like last episode where, if you remember, Gray, there were the two different California crews were literally competing against one another, but it turns out actually they had a lot more in common than they didn't have in common. And in this
Right.
episode here, it was kind of like, well, actually, the two individual groups of people actually maybe get on a lot better than actually give themselves credit for. But it's a ruse, literally, and Delta crew disappear, which I found very sneaky. But there's more to come. These are our guys, Gray. They're always going to win in the end, you'd like to think. Because we're flipping it back to and fro again, the proverbial is literally hitting the fan or back on the Dove. The Dove commander is going. The 3-armed commander, is flipping out because she can't help the captain. The engineers, as a last-ditch effort, literally designed a machine that I look at it and I thought of Star Wars and bloody Han Solo and that carbonite thing or whatever,
like
Yeah, and the shape of it was like, so it was like this thing that opened, and then you go into it and it closes on you. But the shape of it didn't look humanoid at all. It was, I don't know, a plushy toy or something.
Yeah. It was like a big square box the size of or double size of
but the shape inside it, though.
But the inside, it was like memory foam.
What was that? Yeah, it was like memory foam, and it wasn't.
Apparently,
it was
I guess it fits all. You just go in there.
Memory foam. What was in it before, man? A bloody square with a round head? I don't. Whatever.
Well, the Dove commander said, "You guys just commandeer the equipment."
3-armed commander.
So apparently they stole pieces of whatever, and she was pissed off at them. They just stole pieces of stuff that they saw lying around, and they make this machine.
Yeah, which is genius.
But yeah,
Han Solo machine is the only way
they know.
Yeah, and that was the only way of basically relaxing. This machine is literally designed to make anyone relax within seconds. And the captain, they begged us, Captain, we don't want you to leave. Like, jump in this machine. We guarantee it'll make you feel better. Please trust us. She does. She goes in the machine, 10 seconds, comes out, and she's a bit unsure at the start. How do you feel? And then, actually, wow, like, I'm amazing now. You guys are geniuses. This confuses the 3-armed commander because, it's great. And I think she starts smoking at this stage because she's majorly stressed out, which is ironic, I found, Gray.
Right.
Get in the machine. Yeah, literally.
She tries to de-stress everybody and she's smoking down.
Yeah. So as the crew actually leave, she's telling her commander or she's telling her assistant, get that bloody machine off this ship because it's literally going to put them out of business. Which I found hilarious. This genius machine, but no, let's get rid of it. The last but not least, we jump back to Cerritos. And you mentioned this line before. It was. We're going to mention it again because it was very to the point. Beckett again says, "Bull boiler's not sustainable." We found this hilarious. They actually find out when they get into the room themselves that there isn't 4 rooms in this lottery like they thought there was. There's only 1. And they have a little heart-to-heart. They think, right, well, actually, what's the point in that? We can't hang out. We can't be friends if we can't have a room each. We will let them win, then they can take it themselves. Screw it. The interesting and amusing thing was the Delta crew just realised that they could just move 4 beds into the 1 room. And all the ensigns were pissed. They're like, why did we not think of that, man? God damn.
It became a party room, and they're all like, "Oh man, we could have done that."
Yeah, and they're trying their best to try and get an invite to this party room. They feel left out. They've screwed up yet again, our ensigns, but that's why we love them. Commander Ransom literally, he's got a thing with churro dolls, right? He literally walks in at the end, like the equivalent of 10 forward, goes up to the replicator, and is what is it? Yeah, ask for Grace says like
He goes,
like endless supply
give
of
me a dozen
churros.
churros in a
That's it.
brown paper bag.
It's like yes, on the slide. He's got this thing with Cheetos, like and he's got a Cheeto doll. It's a little bit strange, but they're all a bit bonkers in that ship. Now, I found this episode pretty funny, especially because of the Shax and Tiana bit. That was hilarious. But there's a couple little tidbits that I mentioned at the end that I don't necessarily mention through the episode, but near the very start, Gray, when they're in the crowded lower deck section, one of the crewmen literally walks past with the tightest, smallest tail we've ever seen. Beckett shouts out, "Man, you can replicate a bigger tail, man. Come on, this thing is he's a buff guy. He's looking after himself." I think I mentioned the captain with the mask on from the temple, and then the captain telling Billups that he's a effing mess via the doctor, which I found hilarious as well. Almost last but least, Billups and Rutherford fixing stuff even on stress, leaving the safety protocols off, and a bullet almost hits Boimler in the Shax and Tiana scene. Literally then, because they freeze the program as the safety protocols come off, and as literally as they're about to leave, the bullet almost hits Boimler in the face, but stops just no more. Poor Boimler always gets it tight. And last, this is a very serious question, Gray. What is this thing about Boims? Is this going to stick now? Boimler's nickname, Boims. This has been pretty much from the start of this season.
And then what are they going to do? Start calling Beckett Becks?
And well, yeah,
right? And then let's see, Tendi, they have to call her 10. I mean, I don't know. Where does it stop?
Yeah, it certainly should stop with them actually hooking up in this goddamn ship. But honestly, Shax and Tiana are a thing. Beckett and Boimler should be a thing, and then Rutherford and Tiana certainly should be a thing. These guys need to start hooking up.
I think we really don't know what's up, because as far as Beckett and Boimler getting together, it depends, because there was that whole thing where Beckett's friend is her girlfriend, the Andorian.
Yeah, but she could be bisexual.
I remember. No, I agree. But that was her fantasy, so we don't know exactly what's up. But with that, as far as Boimler, he, as we already said, to a really stupid degree now, he doesn't notice everything. But the joke is getting old, so it's kind of like, how often are you not going to notice this stuff? I mean, you have to say something.
That's why he needs to hook up with someone at one point, Boimler, because like you say, it's getting ridiculous now, isn't it? But if it wasn't for the Shax and Tiana scene, this would have been like a 6 out of 10, and that's not a diss on the episode. It's just you've got some funny high standards to go from beforehand. It's a high bar to actually try and reach, but that brought it up to 7 or 8 for me, just because that was the Doctor edges it over me over Shax. I love them both. But anyhow, that's the end of our review of this episode. What Gray and I will probably do over the weekend, if we get a chance, sometime soon certainly, is try and do another kind of one-off special, because we like to do special random subjects and topics on Star Trek, as well as bringing reviews and episodes. It's just different ways of talking about Star Trek. So we can do that, Mr. Gray. But, of course, one other thing, important thing. Now, Gray, back in the day, and that's all I'll say, back in the day, used to work in radio, and he was doing some interviews with some Trek stars, some with us, some fortunately no longer with us, the likes of Nichelle Nichols, George Takei, etc. Now, Gray's dug these out of the archive, so to speak. They were on cassette tape, and what he's done is he's actually bought a little machine that actually converts the analog signal into digital, and he's tried his goddamn best to clean it up And literally what we've done, first and foremost, we released the first episode, about 20 minutes long, where Gray's talking to Nichelle Nichols and flirting with her, may I add. Well, I don't blame the guy. And we put it on the Podbean podcast that we rip the videos from this and put it on there. And
all these interviews are 25 to 30 years old.
Yeah. 1990, give or take a year or two. Yeah. And
seems like yesterday.
A couple of them are just before Star Trek 6, actually. So you'll find that out. Now, we also put the Nichelle Nichols episode on YouTube as well. Gray was legend enough to try and re-encode it and get it working again so we could actually upload it. And I did upload that today. So you'll get these episodes certainly at a minimum on the podcast version of things. So always sign up to that, guys, if you haven't already. And we'll try and bring these out every week, every other week for the content that we have. And as usual, if you can always do the cheeky like and subscribe if you like this random review that we do of episodes. But until then, do your thing, Gray. I'm not going to live long, but that's your stick. Live long and prosper, my friends.
Live long and prosper.
We will catch you soon. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye.